Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Dolphins Brawl. I am your host, Louis Sung, and with me, as always, is my co-host, Chad Ronnebaum. And for the third week in a row, we have got our two super special guests, Ron Canniff and Dante Collinelli.
Woo!
Yep,
What's
we're
up?
back here
What's
for
up?
round 3. So, the best part about doing the draft and all this stuff is that these mock drafts, we can do them as many times as we want. Sometimes people are going to get sick of it. Sometimes we mix it up a little to make sure that people don't get sick of it. But needless to say, next week is the real deal, folks. So no more wondering, no more mocking. This is going to be our final mock draft. And the theme for this week is, what if the Dolphins don't pick a quarterback at 5? Insert dun, dun, dun sound here. So there's going to be a lot of stuff going on. The whole algorithm of the mock draft simulator is going to be all thrown off, I'm sure. So I'm very interested to see what's going to happen. Let's just hop right into it. Dante, once again, you have the keys. Let's get started. The Dolphins at 5.
All right, so letting it run, Joe Burrow, Chase Young, Jeffrey Okudah, and the Giants took Isaiah Simmons at 4.
I figured it's going to happen.
Yeah, so ironically, the whole point of this draft was for us to take Isaiah Simmons at 5.
Well, it looks like we'll probably go an offensive line. But unfortunately, we don't get to have a discussion about it, but I kind of wanted to maybe talk about Simmons. I've been doing a little bit more reading on it, and I'm wondering if in the real draft, if Simmons is one of those players where we're all more in love with him than actual GMs are because of the where do you play him question. I wonder if maybe Simmons drops a little bit further than we think he might in the real draft, just simply because of that question. It's just doing a little bit more reading, and I've seen some opinions on that, and it makes a little bit of sense. But I thought, since we don't get to debate him, I was hoping we'd get a chance to have the discussion. Wanted to kind of throw it out anyway, see what you guys
Ron.
thought.
Why not? Let's just for the sake of it. Why not?
I just was curious what you guys thought about that.
Yeah, so, I mean, my thing is that if your defense can't find a good place for Isaiah Simmons, then you need to change your defense. That's kind of where I'm at with it. I mean, this is a player who's just an elite space guy, safety, linebacker. He played edge a little bit at Clemson. He can rush the passer. He can
Even
blitz.
hit a little corner, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, he played slot corner. I mean, there's reps of him like manning dudes up in the slot and batting the ball away in the college football playoff. I mean, if you can't find a spot to make Isaiah Simmons a good player, then you're a bad defensive coordinator. That's my opinion, at least.
And I would have to agree with that whole assessment right there. This is why we've been in love with Isaiah Simmons since day one, and wishing upon a star that the Dolphins would somehow be able to get him and their quarterback at the same time, which, by the way, would not be impossible, especially if the way that the draft is going to go the way Ron expects it to. Brian Flores is no dummy. Okay, I am assuming that the Rob Gronkowski thing was an aberration, and that was not something that he normally does on a daily basis. So maybe Gronk just really wanted to play defense that one play. I don't know. But I will say that Isaiah Simmons would make the defense immediately elite. Honest to God, I believe that immediately it would be elite, because you don't know what he's going to do on any given play. We don't have Rashad Jones anymore. Simmons could immediately take that role, not even a question, and maybe he would even improve upon it a given time. And if you need him to, he can rush the passer like a Kyle Van Noy. He can even go in the slot like Dante mentioned. You can do it there too. You literally have no idea what he's going to do at any given moment. We thought Minkah Fitzpatrick was a Swiss Army knife. Isaiah Simmons is what's better than a Swiss Army knife? I need some names. I'm not savvy on all that. What's better than a Swiss Army knife?
I think you can wear a lot of hats, is what you're saying too, Louis. Like, can play a lot of different positions, but I like the athlete. I do question, can he play all those positions? Because I think there's a learning curve at every position in the NFL. And so is he going to come in, if you're going to put him at safety, how long is it going to take him to be a really good NFL safety? You're going to play him out at corner. Can he play man in the NFL successfully? If you're going to put him a linebacker, can he hold up against the run in the NFL? Those are all questions. All I see is a guy that's big and fast right now that can play a lot of different positions, but what you're not really going to know is, can he play any of those positions at a high level? Or are you moving him around, but you can't find a home for him? I'm not against Isaiah Simmons.
But that's the whole point, Chad, is do you need to find a home for him?
I think if Miami drafted Isaiah Simmons with Flores, I think he plays a whole new position that people haven't even talked about yet. And so the Flores likes to run a lot of defensive backs, and so he would be a guy in the ideal world that could be good enough to cover tight ends and running backs, as well as being able to be an effective run defender at linebacker. If he could do both of those, he can change the position because he becomes a big advantage in today's NFL when you can do both. He'd be hard to exploit if he can hold up against a run and cover man-to-man both.
Well, the Giants are going to enjoy him in this little world of ours. So that leaves the Dolphins with...
I think with... Oh, go ahead, guys.
Yeah, I mean, so we're assuming we're not drafting the quarterback here.
In this draft, no.
Not in this draft, no. Yeah.
So top 4 players off the board next would be Tristan Wirfs, Mekhi Becton, Andrew Thomas, Derek Brown, and then there's also Jedrick Wills at tackle. I don't know if you guys want to go with a different position or if tackles
literally 3 offensive tackles and then 1 defensive one. So
I think that's the only even discussion is the D tackle. You've got to go. I think you just take your highest rated offensive tackle personally. I'm from Iowa, so I would probably go with
Tristan Wirfs is your guy. Go for it.
Yeah, I'm not from Iowa, and I would go Wirfs.
Because remember, it's Wirfs, Becton, and Thomas, all 3 just back to back to back. So
I think Wills is right in there with him as well. All 4 of those high-rated tackles.
I think I personally have Tristan Wirfs rated as the highest tackle in this class. I just think his ceiling is incredible. I just wonder if Miami would prefer somebody like Mekhi Becton, just given that they want to run a power scheme and they like those short sets. And I mean, that's what Mekhi Becton did at Louisville. It's an interesting conversation that we can have. I agree. I think Wirfs is the better player, but given
Becton's ceiling's enormous, but I do question how fundamentally sound Becton's going to be as a rookie.
And something that Mel Kiper brought up while he was doing the interview with all of the media folks is that he's got to keep his weight down. And if he doesn't, it's not going to go well.
I mean, I just have seen, watching a lot of Iowa Hawkeye football, Kirk Ferentz, the coach, and that staff is phenomenal at technically developing offensive linemen. And Wirfs is going to come in, and he can probably start right away. That's just my guess. That's why I like him, because this isn't a team right now that has a really good tackle at all on our whole roster. And so if we're going to use our 5th overall pick, I would like it to be a plug-and-play type player, not a player that needs a little bit of work yet, even though Becton's probably got the highest ceiling. I do want a plug-and-play player, if that makes sense.
Okay.
It makes absolute sense to me. I'm not arguing Tristan Wirfs. I'm good with it.
Do you guys want me to pause it so we can talk about possible?
Well,
Yes.
I think now
pause
with
it.
quarterbacks, we got to be looking at trade up immediately.
Yeah.
We got our tackle.
Well, but the other teams that need a quarterback now have their choice of both Tua and Herbert. So the only one that we really are looking at the first round at this point would be Jordan Love. And he's like every single simulation that we have done has Love going to New England way down at the bottom. I'm
not convinced. I mean, this simulator probably will, but I'm not convinced if we don't take Tua that he's not going to fall right now. Because I'm convinced there are several teams that are worried. They have one number 1 pick that need to win right now. Even if you're getting into 6, 7, 8, 9, Tua does not help your team this year, and that's a really expensive pick to make for somebody who's not going to play at all this year for you, most likely.
Yeah, I think the interesting thing too is I paused it right before the Chargers pick. I mean, just assuming that if the Chargers do pass on Tua at 6, I mean, we might even be able to sit like Chad said, and Tua could be there at 18. I mean, just given the teams in front of us at 18, not a lot of quarterback need. I mean, maybe you worry about the Raiders at 12 if John Gruden gets antsy, but outside of that, I mean, it's a lot of teams.
I mean, that's I hate to go back to the. This is what happens when we have to cut each other off all the time.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we start talking about value right now. So we're at 18, and we have to come up. And so if we're coming up from 18,
have to jump in front of
in the real world, I think we have to just let the Chargers go because there's no way the Chargers are going to pass. Okay. They're either taking Herbert or Tua, possibly Love.
I will let the Chargers go. And they actually took Mekhi Becton from Louisville
We messed up the whole algorithm. I knew we would.
Yeah.
I knew
We've
this was
thrown the
gonna
whole
happen.
computer for a loop.
Every algorithm has the Dolphins taking Tua.
Yeah.
All right, so now we're at 7, and so I don't have that value board, but 18 to 7, I am guessing it would take
We're
a
at
second. Third. That's a lot. So we're probably sitting.
I'm sitting. I don't have any. I don't have any.
Yeah, I'd like to see what it looks like. Yeah, let's see.
All right. So let it run all the way to 18.
Yep.
Yeah.
All
But
right.
no, let's get it run to about 12.
Let it run past the Raiders pick. How about that?
Okay. Both quarterbacks are still on the board at pick 14. So the Raiders took CeeDee Lamb, the Jets took Henry Ruggs, and the Niners took Jerry Jeudy. So the Buccaneers are up at pick 14.
So both quarterbacks are on the board right now, right?
Tua and Herbert and Jordan Love are all on the board.
Yeah, I guess you got to let it run.
Off.
I think we just wait. Yeah.
Wait for it. Sure, why not? Looks like we're gonna get our quarterback no matter what.
Who's up right now?
We are, and both are still on the board.
Tua and Herbert are both. All right, let's discuss this real quick. Hold on.
All right. I just want to say if this did happen and we pass on quarterback again, Twitter will break. At least the Miami.
Dolphins, at least. Yep.
Yeah.
New England will take Tua. I bet you anything.
Now you're thinking
I'm
you got to
almost
worry
curious.
about New England. Yeah.
Now I'm almost curious to let it run another 8 picks to see what happens. And
But
take like McKinley or Kenny or something.
Yeah, we taken him like 2 drafts in a row. I don't like
Let's
that. We just
make it
mix
3,
it up
buddy.
a little bit.
I
Full
don't see
time.
how you don't take a quarterback right here. You got your
Yeah,
pick.
I
as
agree.
well.
In the real
Yeah,
world.
I'm sure we will. But this is something I want to discuss though. Just out of curiosity, because we've actually had a few simulators who do drop Tua all the way to the Dolphins pick at 18, and we've always looked at that's never gonna happen. There's no way that's gonna happen. Are we? Chad's been saying for a while he's gonna drop, but do you really think he's gonna fall all the way down to 18 and nobody?
No, I don't know. I think to be clear, I think he'll fall to 5 just because of the quality of players up in those spots right now with people like Chase Young. And the need that the Lions have at corner, and Okudah is really the only really, really good corner rated in this draft. I circle back. If you're a GM or a head coach, what's the average? I don't know if you guys know off the top, but it's like, what, 3 years maybe? How long you hold your job in this league? If you're
without
failing.
some level of success.
I mean, if you aren't having a playoff caliber team in 3 years, this year in this league, a lot of teams, GMs and coaches don't make it. And so when you start running through GMs and coaches right now that have been in this for 2-3 years and they need to win now, I just don't think you can take Tua in the first round anyway. You can't justify it because he's not going to help you. That could push him. I mean, when you get past the Chargers, you don't have a team that needs a quarterback badly. And so I don't think I'm worried too much about Tua going probably until maybe the Raiders, because Gruden's kind of a loose cannon. But beyond that, even the Raiders, I mean, this is Gruden's 3rd year he's coming into now, right?
Yeah, he has 7 left after this.
Yeah.
Right, but you know what? He wants to win
let
pretty
me-
bad, right?
Let me
the Raiders-
He does.
Let me say
There's
this real
pressure on
quick.
him to win.
Let me say this real quick. For what it's worth, and I don't know how much we take Kuiper's word into account. I really don't. Some people do, some people don't. But from what he told us while we were doing the group interview conference call thing, he's talked to Gruden. He knows Gruden well. They both work together at ESPN, obviously. And Gruden has never had the opportunity to pick his guy. And
No,
that's
I understand that, but again, so this is his 3rd year, and the Raiders have not done anything yet with Gruden as a coach. And so if he picks Tua, you're using a high resource right there for a guy that's not going to help your team this year, and you're going into next year, and you realistically have the risk that Tua may not physically be the same player. I know he's putting out the videos right now, but those aren't hits by defensive linemen he's taking. Those aren't 40 times that he's showing right there. You have to question his durability right now, because anybody that's trying to spin that he isn't at a higher risk of re-injuring his hip.
That was Pro Football Doc on Twitter. Yeah, David Chow or whatever.
True. He absolutely has a higher chance of having a re-injury, and he has a higher chance of having complications with the hip at some point in his career. And so I'm not trying to talk us out of Tua. I'm just making the point that is would be one of the biggest gambles in history if you're a GM and a head coach right now to take Tua really high in the firch round.
Well, the further he drops, the less it becomes a risk. No.
Well, that's my point. Yeah, at 18, I guess the question where I was going with it is, will he last to 26 because of that? This is a simulator, but I wanted to get your opinion.
Well, I'm not sure he'll last to 18, honestly. For real, I don't think
if he drops.
15. No, we're at 18, but I'm saying
in the draft,
in the real draft, because the real draft's going to be next week. I don't foresee Tua dropping that low.
I doubt it, because you have teams that'll come up that can afford to, like somebody like the Saints or the Patriots, where their coach that they're at no risk of losing their jobs.
Yeah, if Belichick wants Tua, nobody's going to question him. Nobody.
Well, I mean, they have the position to still go up and get him, and when you get to 18, they're probably getting within range. They could trade up, 7-8 spots and grab him. So
if this happened and Tua didn't get picked with those teams, like I am predicting, like the absolute maximum that he would fall would be to like 11. There's no way somebody's not going to jump up and go get him at that point, because everybody will be wondering, like, what the heck is going on here? Let's go get this guy.
You're right, but at the same time, to come up means you're trading your first round pick plus more resources, again, for a guy that won't play and may never be right.
But
so even in the mid round, it's a risk.
But you know what? But that's the thing, is when you gamble like that, if Tua really is the left-handed Drew Brees, then somebody is going to be.
You can't compare a guy who's never played a down of football in pro football in his life to one of the top quarterbacks of all time.
But you can judge their skill sets.
Right, but I think there's a perception out there that Tua is going to be amazing, and you have no idea how well he's going to do in the NFL. I think he's a good prospect, but these people that are saying, "Oh, he's Drew Brees-like," I'm thinking, he's never played a down of successful pro football in his life. And Drew Brees is one of the best of all time. And so for you to draft thinking you're getting Drew Brees, I mean, Drew Brees wasn't Drew Brees until he was in the Saints with Sean Payton. He wasn't that spectacular in the Chargers for a few years. And with Tua, I think you have to assume he's not going to have a long career compared to other quarterbacks with his hip. I mean, if he gives you 8 to 10 good years, great. But if you're expecting him to be playing for a really long time, I think that's wishful thinking. I just think the chance of that injury having complications down the road, that's there. And so I just think we call it the cult of Tua a lot of times, Lewis, but there's this perception out there that he is going to be unbelievable, and I just don't know. Like, I think it's a coin flip that he's going to be a lot better than the other 4 top quarterbacks in this draft. Maybe even in the top 5 or 6.
Well, for what it's worth, at 18, this computer has us being able to pick him or Herbert. I'm picking Tua if it's between them two.
I'm okay with for the Dolphins in this draft at 18 with another number 1 pick coming in. Now that we've got our good starting offensive tackle, it's a much lower risk for us than most teams would be facing.
Let me ask you something. Can Wirfs play right tackle?
I would imagine.
Oh, he is a right tackle. Okay, well, then that's where he needs to be, honestly. If Tua is the pick, Wirfs needs to be a right tackle, not a left one.
I don't have any concern that he could switch. I don't like switching guys around a lot during the season, but if you start him on his side in training camp, I think he'd be just fine. But I guess the only argument is if either you have Herbert or Tua about it, or sorry, Herbert or Love, but we've already had that discussion in past shows when we took at 5. So.
All right. Tua Tagovailoa.
18. All right. And let it run to 26.
Yep. Nothing to trade up for at this point.
Queen, Chason, Patriots took Justin Herbert, Christian to the Saints, Denzel Mims to the Vikings. We are on the board. Grant Delpit, DeAndre Swift, J.K. Dobbins, Jordan Love, Jonathan Taylor, Kenneth Murray, Isaiah Wilson, Yatir Gross-Matos, Cesar Ruiz, Ezra Cleveland, and Jalen Johnson are the top group of players.
All right. So I go back to Kuiper because he's the one I have most recent in my head. He likes Isaiah Wilson. He thinks GMs like Isaiah Wilson. I think we and you, Dante, have said that Isaiah Wilson's getting a little hyped up too much. And the reason I'm thinking the reason I'm not thinking Delpit right this second is because I'm thinking of Antoine Winfield, and I know for a fact that he is his father's son, and he's got some serious skill to him. So I'm not pushing the Delpit train too hard right now. Like if you had to, Dante, if you had to put Delpit and Winfield on like one of those scales, what would you do there?
I mean, I think in a bubble, I think Grant Delpit's probably a safer pick, just given he has and even he has a little bit of an injury history. Those two are pretty close. I just think Delpit's injury history is a little bit cleaner. I think he's a slightly better athlete as well, and I think he's just an imposing presence given his size. But I mean, those two players, you're really splitting hairs because, I mean, you can argue that stuff with Delpit, and then you can come back and argue with, well, Winfield is a better cover man and he has better ball skills, and they're both equally productive. So, I mean, I think taking either even at 26, I wouldn't hate. Obviously, I think we could wait on Winfield possibly to 39.
That's what I'm thinking about.
Yeah. For me here, I think doing this in a realistic scenario, I think Miami's going to heavily consider a running back with this last pick in the first round. Now, I personally would not do that, but I think if you're the Dolphins and you're sitting up here and you're Chris Greer, you have to think to yourself, I need to hit on these picks, right? And assuming that Tua is the quarterback, that pick comes with a ton of risk. And, given we took Tristan Wirfs, is probably a hit, but you don't know. If you draft DeAndre Swift at 26, he's going to come in and be productive right away. You're going to be able to point to that pick as a general manager and say, look, I just hit on a pick in the first round. And I think that's inherently more valuable to guys who might lose their job than it is to us on Twitter. So I think they will consider that here. I don't know if we want to, but I would be pretty surprised if, one of the running backs isn't in consideration at 26.
All right, here's another idea. Can we trade down and get another second or something?
I'm okay with that. Right now, I understand the thought on Winfield, or either corner, I guess. But I mean, right now we have Bobby McCain who can play the slot corner.
He should play the slot corner. That's it.
Well, I mean, I like I said, I know those are good players, but I think he's a pretty solid player still, and our offensive line is still needs a lot of work, and so I have a tough time not getting one of the top interior guys right now.
But that's what I'm saying. It's like if we can trade down and get like a Ruiz.
Yeah, it is, and I don't think they're going to do running back here. I understand. I think just because they're all on the board still, and I don't know who you would take. Like what running back is going to change your team right now? If you put them all together, you couldn't grab it in the second round probably right now. And I actually watched. I'm really dropped off a little bit on Swift. I watched a lot of his game footage, not his highlights. And Georgia's offensive line was amazing. Like, I mean, just look at this draft. I mean, he was running through holes that I could run through at times. I mean, they were just blowing defensive lines up. And I guess I don't get that impressed if a good athlete runs through a hole and makes highlight films. I'm more impressed on an athlete that goes into a line when there's not much there and pushes the pile for 2 or 3 yards still instead of getting zero.
Well, keep in mind what exactly it is the Dolphins are needing right now. We have the Thunder already. We need the Lightning.
I agree with that's what DeAndre Swift is, and I watched him and he danced a lot. He got caught from behind a lot for a guy that's supposed to be as explosive. And I thought the LSU back, Clyde Edwards-Helaire and J.K. Dobbins, they looked way better prospects to me for an NFL team right now. I think they're guys that can both take it to the house, and they're both guys that can get you those 2 or 3 tough yards when there's a tight run lane in there. I guess, if you get DeAndre, I'm just not feeling after watching his film that I want to use a first-round pick on him right now for a guy that you're projecting more into a Dion Lewis type role right now. I want a back that's going to change the game for us if you're going to draft him in the first round. If it's a rotational back, I'm not using a first-round pick on him, I guess, is what I'm saying.
Guys, you know what? I think we don't have enough picks.
Well, I don't know. I agree. You got to get a starting player right here.
There's so much talent in the second round, man. And there's no. Is there besides Delpit? Is there anybody at this point who's worth using a first rounder on?
I mean, I think you got to go Delpit, Winfield, or an offensive lineman because Delpit.
But that's what I'm saying. If we get Winfield, that's second round.
I mean,
so look, either one of those players they're going to be on the field 90% of the time in the Flores defense. You draft DeAndre Swift, you're picking him up to what? Play 50% of the snaps and maybe get 10 carries and 3 or 4 catches. His impact on the team for a first round pick just isn't there for me.
But again, that's what I'm saying. Is like if we can get Winfield in the second, and the drop off from him and Delpit is not even that much to notice, other than a little bit of injury history. There's so much second round talents.
I think Delpit's probably the best pick here for Flores, but I guess this is one of those debates on do you take the BPA or are you taking the need? Because the need in offensive line is much greater.
That's the one thing we haven't discussed. Trade down, get more
seconds.
seconds.
Allow you to trade down?
Yeah, you can trade wherever you want.
We can trade down. My only worry is that, I think we could take Cesar Ruiz here at pick 26.
You don't think he'll be there in the second?
I'm not particularly interested in letting the Seahawks and the Ravens pick next. They're both teams with interior offensive line needs. So I'm not interested in showing them Cesar Ruiz because I think he'll come on board in the next 2 picks. And then the drop off from him is quite big. I'm not personally interested in Isaiah Wilson, but it would not shock me if Miami was. He fits their prototype for tackle.
They need to change their prototype.
Well, yeah. Yeah, I mean,
I don't know. To me, I'd go with Cesar Ruiz. I mean, think about now that you've gotten worse. You put him with, if you take Cesar Ruiz, and you have Eric Flowers coming over from Washington. You've got the veteran center from New England, and you still have Jesse Davis who can play right tackle. That may not be an all-pro line, but that's probably the best offensive line we've had in 4 or 5 years right now. That you
if it works.
Ron, what do you think?
My first instinct was Delpit. I still think I lean that way a little bit. I'm just concerned that Winfield won't be there when we get to 39. That we may end up having to trade up to make sure.
But that's what I'm talking about. If we trade down at 26, get more seconds.
But I like the idea of trying to maybe have another lineman because our line is so beat up, and then grab Winfield. But I'm just concerned. I just feel like we have to come away with a starting safety. Somehow, some way out of this draft in these first few picks, we need a safety. I think it's not as important as line because we need to fill so much at line, but I think it's something that the Dolphins are going to find extremely important to do. I do not think that they're going to put a priority on running back. If you look at the system Flores is coming from, and I'm sure, he's not just trying to copy everything New England does. However, he saw years and years and years and years of success of rarely putting a premium on running back. Yes, we've seen we saw Belichick do it a couple years ago with Sony Michel. And then we've seen him feature backs maybe 2 or 3 other times in 20 years where
he made something out of Chad, are you muted?
He featured running backs maybe if you took the 20 years. I mean, a Patriots fan could correct me, but let's just say real super conservatively, out of 20 years, he really featured a back 4 times. It's just, and that was just mostly, except for maybe Michelle, who they spent a high pick on. I think that was mostly out of just, he couldn't stop from giving LeGarrette Blount the ball. You know what I mean? There's a couple other guys back in the day.
Actually, feature Michelle. I mean, they use him, but I don't remember Belichick ever using a back like
I believe that Michelle should have been the Super Bowl MVP. The year before.
Game, but that's
they were featuring him. They were featuring him all year. I mean, they were using him a lot, but then they drafted him high, and I think that was part of why they would have used him more. But he came in with the injury.
I just wonder if they were struggling.
I just wonder if Flores has the mindset of we got to go big on running back right now. I think he's going to be in the mindset of because he's seen it work. We can find running backs in mid rounds. We can find running. We can put it together with a room of 4 guys that all fit what we want to do. And hi, Lewis. How are you doing? My turn to talk. And no, I'm just kidding. Just kidding. But I just feel, just kind of put the running back thing aside, back to Ruiz or Delpit. I like trying to get Ruiz, but man, I'm nervous that if we, that we got to find a safety too. I'm just concerned about that. So
I'm good on both those picks because I think you could have a potential Pro Bowl corner or potential Pro Bowl guard. That's what you're shooting for if you're in the first round still is both those guys, whether it's Ruiz or Delpit, they're going to play 90% plus snaps. They both have potential to be really good players. So I'm okay with that. That's why I'm anti-running back is because we've already picked up Jordan Howard. I think you're spot on, Ron. I don't think Flores is looking at a running back as a player that's going to be on the field all the time like those other two players. And if you're going to use a first round pick on a draft on a running back, it's got to be to me a guy that's really special. If it's Ezekiel Elliott or Saquon Barkley, guys like that. Well, yeah, because those guys come in and they change your whole offense and are really really hard to stop.
Is that Jonathan Taylor?
Jonathan Taylor. Maybe I just feel like with Taylor, Dobbins, the guy I'm talking about, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, DeAndre Swift. We're not that far away from the second round right now where we're going to be picking again. So to use that pick right now, unless you really feel one of those backs is special, you get that player that's going to be on the field all the time is going to have a much bigger impact.
So we're between Ruiz and Delpit.
Delpit. Say Delpit.
My final argument, I think, will be for Ruiz just because there's a 0% chance that there's a caliber offensive lineman that we want at 39. There's at least some chance that there's a safety we can get at 39.
Right.
That would be
Very
my
fair
argument for it. But again, if you value safety high, because again, there's an argument to be made that Jesse Davis can play guard, Michael Dieter can play guard. They signed Eric Flowers. They have Ted Karras. I just think it'll come down to what do the Dolphins value at this pick. I think strategically it should be Cesar Ruiz from a strategic standpoint, but again, it's up to you guys.
And here's the X factor with it, Dante, is you're right. Our depth on the offensive line is definitely an issue, and so we're naming off guys that would be 5 starters. But how often do we go through a season without losing an offensive lineman?
Totally
several.
It's the depth, and then I trust Brian Flores a lot with defensive backs, and so I think you can get by with guys. Maybe I think we talked about this in the show too, but maybe a guy that's not rated as high that he can coach into being a really good defensive back still. So I'm more willing to say let's get that offensive lineman right now. Let's try to fix this offensive line, and if we get Winfield, great. If we don't, we'll get a young guy that have Flores work with him. And
Okay,
we still have game.
I'm still being greedy about this though. Just one, but last one. We'll take Ruiz if you guys say no, but I want to ask Dante something first.
Yeah.
How far could we drop without you feel like losing out on Ruiz? Like, forget the second round. Let's just drop in the first.
There's not much left for linemen.
I mean, I would probably feel comfortable maybe dropping, I don't know, 1 or 2 spots. I worry
What can you get with 1 or 2 spots?
I worry about dropping
4.
behind even just 1 spot. Because Seattle could really use a center. I mean, their center is getting. I mean, he's not. I don't even remember his name, and he's telling you he's not good. That's a high need for them. We could definitely explore it though. Trading back with Seattle, see if they want to come up.
What does Seattle got?
Well, we're 26. They're 27. So what do you guys want to send to move up 1 or move back 1 pick?
Give him our first. Give him our first.
I would want a second minimum because this is a huge risk.
That's the whole point. I mean, that's really what I'm wanting is I want another second, or at the very least, more thirds and fourths to play with, so that way we can trade up in the second.
Are we going to get a starting line though? Then picks. I mean, right now,
it's
no, but that's what I'm talking about. More ammo to go back into the second is what I'm looking for. If we can't get a second itself, then.
Well, here's the problem with the simulator is that if we trade down with Seattle, there's no guarantee that they won't trade in front of us and draft Cesar Ruiz. So, like, in real life, if we were to make this trade, we'd call up and say, hey, like, that's our guy. If you're not going to take him, we'll allow you to move up here. But if that's our target, I just have with the simulator specifically, I don't know. It's up to you guys. If we want to trade down, we can trade down to the Titans at 29 and let them come up, and we can let Seattle and Baltimore pick. But
I mean, we have 14 picks right now. I'm having a hard time giving up that we need that. Eric Flowers is on a 3-year deal. That's really a 2-year deal and guaranteed money. We don't have young linemen right now, other than we got worse in this draft, but we need an infusion of young linemen pretty badly. I can't. And
You're not gonna. For the record, I was picking Ruiz with that same pick we would have traded for, just for the record. But I'm just, if you know what, you guys, if you guys are feeling too hesitant about it, then just go ahead and draft Ruiz.
I would take I would take a 1st-round pick in 2021. That's
well,
for there.
To move down one, for them to move up one spot in the 20s,
they're gonna say no.
They're gonna say no. You shouldn't even offer that.
I'm just saying, like,
I don't think they would give us a 3rd-round pick for that. That's the honest truth.
Oh, no, I agree with you, but to me, that's the value right now, because once you pass a couple guys, I don't know that we're getting a starting offensive lineman at that point in this draft. And this team,
if that answers your question, we need to draft Ruiz. If he's that valuable to us, then that needs to be the pick, and we move on.
Well, to me, unless our scouts have, a line on somebody they feel really good about starting. But I mean, I've been through some of the guys we've gotten lately. The one guy that just became the police officer, what was his name? He's from Minnesota.
Isaac Asiata.
Asiata.
He was supposed to be the answer.
I took the video of him pulling the basketball hoop out of the ground with his bare hands. Everybody was so excited, and he didn't do anything.
He couldn't even hardly get off. He couldn't even get in the starting lineup.
He'll be good. He'll be good as a cop as long as he doesn't have to set up any roadblocks. Wah, wah.
But we've been through some really bad line play.
All right. Cesar Ruiz is the pick at 26. We're moving on. 39. Here we come.
All right.
So we're hoping for Antoine Winfield Jr., I would assume.
Yeah, that's what I'm hoping for.
What teams need a safety?
At this point, he's BPA for some teams, I'm guessing.
All right, so he's on the board for us at 36. If we
take him. No questions asked. Antoine Winfield, safety's done. Next.
I agree.
I have no arguments there.
Yeah, and this is, you know what? This is why I said I wanted more ammo for second rounders.
This is like a dream draft right here, kind of, isn't it?
Oh, for what we're getting?
Two starting linemen, a tackle, and an
already
and
at 18.
I mean, not just a starting lineman, probably the best lineman in the draft, and probably the best interior lineman in the draft, and Tua, and we got a safety. I mean, this honestly,
probably
if the draft worked out this way, we'd all be pretty happy if the draft actually went this way.
Yeah. I would at this point. I'm like, woo.
yeah, it's pretty crazy.
But but this is why I'm such a greedy son of a you know what. Like, there's so much second round talent to be had, and if at this point I'm looking to double up, I either want to double up at offensive tackle, or I want to get Clyde Edward-Helaire or someone like that. But I wanted
we did
both.
What we did. Now we have the ammunition, like I've said this other weeks. But this is where we make our moves with our later round picks and get it higher picks in the second and thirds here.
Well, we have we're at pick 42 right now. We pick again at 56. We can move up if you guys want, or we can just let the board run.
Is there any offensive tackles that have fallen unexpectedly that would be?
Chaz's camera just went out.
Who's?
Your camera just went out. There you are.
Cleveland's still on the board. Austin Jackson's still on the board. Okay. Lucas Niang's still on the board. He's been a popular pick of ours.
For what it's worth, Kuiper really likes Austin Jackson. I don't know if you feel the same.
I'm okay taking him here.
I mean, Jackson is fine. I just think he needs a little bit of work, but we're in the second round.
Everybody needs work at this point.
Yeah. My problem with Jackson is him at 26. Like that's where I'm out on Jackson. If you want to take him in the second round, you're not going to hear any qualms from me.
What are the top running backs still on the board right now?
All of them are still on the board. So
it's hard to not. It's hard not to take like a Jonathan Taylor or
Swift. He's still there.
I think we could let that run to 56, and
they're all on the board. Yeah. Okay, I'm good with that.
All right, go ahead.
Letting it run to 56.
So who'd we take?
We took
Winfield. Now we're just
Winfield
going
with
to
the
the end of
39.
second. Okay.
All right. So a couple of the running backs did come off the board.
Dobbins and Swift.
So we are left with Cam Akers is the best running back.
Hilaire went.
Yes, Hilaire went 4 picks ahead of us to the Rams.
What
I'm fine
did I
with
tell you? We need more seconds.
Well, or you got to trade up.
Yeah, I mean, we could have traded up there. So best player available on the board right now is KJ Hamler, the receiver from Penn State. Ashton Davis is a safety from Cal. Laviska Shenault, the receiver from Colorado. T. Higgins, the receiver from Clemson.
Folks are talking about receivers a lot on Twitter lately. Like, there's a whole debate about the Albert Wilson thing, and like, well, we can just draft somebody and then we can cut Wilson. I'm like, but do we need to? Really? Not really.
My pick here would probably be Lucas Niang, just doubling down at that tackle spot. He's the best tackle on the board. I think.
Yeah, there's no way Akers isn't there in the third.
Yeah. We could probably
there every time.
Yeah, we could probably wait on Akers if we wanted to. I'd probably go with Niang here. I don't know if you guys have if you want to discuss wide receiver, there's a ton of good ones on the board still.
No discussion.
I think we just wait on that. Maybe
Twitter
fourth or
wants to
fifth
trade
round.
for
It's a luxury pick.
I don't want to do wide receivers.
Yeah, it's a fourth or fifth. It's a fourth or fifth luxury pick for us. We need, good players still left on the board to fill some needs for us, and I think that's the way we need to go.
Is Niang the most pure right tackle? If we're assuming Wirfs is the left.
Yeah, he played right at TCU. Technically, they're both right tackles, but I honestly think either of them could play both sides. I don't really see any trouble in that area.
I like it. Worst case scenario is if he doesn't be a higher end starter, he's still a great third tackle at your worst case scenario. So I don't think you can go wrong.
Okay. Lucas Niang. I'll pause it. So the Rams took Jordan Brooks, so we're at pick 58. Our next pick is at pick 70. I don't know if you guys want to move up and secure Cam Akers here.
I don't want any. We don't need that many fifth rounders at this point. How many picks have we picked already?
Well, and we've addressed offensive line. We have Winfield.
If this does not address the offensive line, then the Dolphins are doomed to always be a crappy offensive line team.
Well, we've got 3 young high-end offensive linemen, which is I would be ecstatic if we got that in this draft. And we got Winfield and Tua. So you bring in Cam Akers, I don't care what you trade. I think you walk away happy now.
I'd trade up. I'd trade those fifths or some of those. Like, get rid of those sevenths. Like, see what you can get for some sevenths. Like, dump all the sevenths in the sixth too. Why not?
We can move up 10 spots to pick 60 with Baltimore. And I think that'll be a spot where we can take Akers. So
I'm okay with that.
Let's give that a run.
Are we giving up our third rounder that we have already?
Yeah, you'll have
to. You have to at that point.
Do we though? Just out of curiosity, let's give it a shot.
Maybe are you going to give all of our 5th, 6th, and 7th and keep the 3rd? Maybe.
Get an extra 3rd, not keep a 3rd. Get an extra one.
Oh, what the hell? Let's try it. Let's try offering them 3 5ths for the pick.
Not 3. No. Be conservative.
I'd rather do that and keep our other.
Conservative. We have picks to play with.
I think it'll have to be a 4th and 2 5ths. That's the best we can offer without trading our 3rd.
All right, fair enough. Give it a shot.
All right.
So we're gonna have 2/3 then that you're angling for. I'm okay with that.
No, we'll have a 3rd second, but they denied the trade. So we're trading up right now from the 3rd round to the 2nd round. We have the 5th pick in the 3rd.
Oh, you're in the 2nd round still. Oh no. I'm at the 3rd. No. I'm sorry.
I was just saying, I think we could secure Akers now by giving up half minimum value.
Nah, I don't think they're gonna need that much.
What are you targeting right now? Because right now that's a need is running back. We've addressed line. We still.
Well, this is what I wanted to talk about earlier. Let me
tackle.
Let me say this real quick. This is what I wanted to talk about earlier. If Chad's point and Ron's point is sound, and New England philosophy is the Dolphins can pretty much run with any running back we've got. Because remember, the New England Patriots made Jonas Gray a one-hit wonder, for God's sakes. And the only reason he got benched was because he was late to practice one day. So Now, keep in mind, we've got guys, no names, and some names we do know. Balaj is still there. I don't think you can make anything out of him. But again, if we're going with the New England philosophy, then
I've got
my
kicked off of
philosophy
this for
isn't.
recommending Balaj, you guys.
I'm not
My
recommending
philosophy
Balaj.
is
I am
no,
not
wait.
recommending Balaj.
You
I
are-
am saying
you
if
are
you're going with the
You are changing
New
what I said
England,
completely. My philosophy is we don't take Dante, Lewis, Chad, and Ron, and we're the running back team. My philosophy is they're not going to necessarily put a premium on the running back position in the draft.
right? But are you saying then that
That's
guys
two
like Miles
completely different
Gaskin and
concepts.
Patrick Laird are not
Patrick
solid
Laird is a
players?
piece for them. I'm telling you right now, they
And
like
Gaskin.
him. He's a piece. He's a piece they're going to continue to use, whether you like it or not, Chad. No, I'm just kidding. But Balaj is
I
out.
like it.
Okay, fine. Take out Balaj.
So
Myles
right now is
Gaskin.
a time where they're going to want to target a running back they feel is a talented running back that can do some things for them. I just don't think it's at the first round with all the other needs and the fact that they feel like they could take a second or third round running back and get as much production out of him. That's what I meant by that. Not that they can take any 4 running backs and make it work, because clearly we saw last year that isn't the case. You do need some talent there. I just don't think it has to be a first rounder.
Well, I think the real only debate at this point is at Dante, who is there much on the board for D tackles right now? Like, what do we have?
I mean, there's one. It's Justin Madubuike. So we're at pick 67 now. I let the simulator run. So again, I think that Madubuike is probably the best defensive tackle on the board.
So we're in the third round now.
Yep, we're in the third round now. We're 3 picks away. Cam Akers is still on the board, and Justin Madubuike is the best defensive tackle on the board.
But to me, both those guys are players that are going to play about 30 to 40% of the snaps. So because that's going to be a rotational defensive tackle, probably behind Godchow and Wilkins. How big is he? Is he a nose tackle type, or is he a?
No, he's a 3-tech. He's a 3-tech.
We
Need
really need a nose.
I think they want a nose. So I think Akers.
304. I don't think he's a good enough run defender. I don't think it's about size. I just don't think that's his best role. I think he's a penetration style player.
That's Wilkins and Godchaw already. We don't need any more of those.
Well, that's my point. So I think Akers he's going to be a nice complement to Howard. And as Ron said, we've got Patrick Laird. If he ends up beating out Myles Gaskins, I'm all for it.
So do we want to move up 2 picks or let it run?
I don't want to move up 2 picks. What I'm wanting is to get back in the third round.
Yeah, let's let this one go. I think we'll be all right.
Right, and
These would go right before us.
we are all right. So Cam Akers at pick 70.
Yep.
Yeah, I like it.
All right. So we don't pick again for quite a while.
Dante, are there any offensive? Is Ezra Cleveland or any of that? No, we already got Lucas
we're
Niang.
good
We don't need. Yeah, we don't need any more of those.
I think the next probably thing that we should address, I would like to address possibly either edge rusher or defensive tackle. Just given that we haven't signed any long-term contracts at edge, and I think this could be a good spot for one in the middle of the third round.
That's the thing. After like Epinesa and Yetur Gross-Matos and them, like the depth and this draft is not pass rusher heavy at all.
Well,
No.
I think we'll be, but you got to look at it from a bigger DN that can set the edge with it. I don't think Flores is going to be looking for a 4-3 type defensive end here, and so
No, I get that, but either way, it's like the talent level is just not.
It will be though, Lewis, because a lot of teams still run 4-3 type DNs in this league, and so you're going to get some guys that'll fall into that round.
Yeah, I mean, again, I think we should just, we can talk about it. I had 2 of the edges on the board, Julian Aquara and Jonathan Grenard. I don't know if either of them are particular fits for the scheme. Aquara probably more than Grenard, just given the fact that he is a good athlete and he's super long. So I think he could be closer to a Shaq Lawson type player. My only concern is that Aquara is not a great run defender, and I think that's a make or break thing for Brian Flores. I don't think he's going to
for sure
too interested in that. He does check a lot of other boxes though. So again, we can let it run to pick. I think it's 110 is our next pick. it's about 50 picks away, or we could let it run a little bit and pause it again and see what the board looks like. It's up to you guys, really. I don't know if I would move up here. I just think if I was going to move up, it would be for someone on the defensive line.
Yeah, I'm saying. What pick did we got? Hamilton last year, right, from Ohio State?
Yeah, he went already. He went at pick 61, which is much higher. Yeah, he's much higher than that. That's much higher than he usually goes. So that kind of ruined our strategy there. But I don't know. It's up to you guys. I'd probably let it run a little bit.
Yeah, let's let it go. We don't have a name that there's any conviction on.
All right, I'll let it run to pick 100. That's about halfway. We can pause it again and take a look.
Because that's the thing. It's like there's no way we're going to take 14 players. There's going to be a trade or at least 2 trades in this draft for the Dolphins.
Yeah, I mean, they could flip those picks for 2021 picks too if they want later in the draft. They could flip a 2020 fifth for a 2021 fourth. Teams do that a lot more than people think.
I'm all for that.
Yeah, we can't do that here, but that's a very real strategy in the real draft.
Well, with the way this one panned out, we got our offensive line because in our last few drafts, we've been still trying to get a guard or somebody or a tackle this late, and we have that luxury.
I wonder how many coaches who aren't on the hot seat, who don't necessarily have to have players right now to help their team. I wonder how many coaches of good teams that are in a good spot are going to be kicking a lot of picks to 2021 just because of the lack of work they've been able to do on players this year. I don't know that's going to happen.
Honestly, I think they're more prepared. I think they're more prepared this year than they've been any other year because at this point, when you start to overanalyze things and look at things for too long, like, oh, let's take a look at this guy in person, see what he can do, and you fall in love with the performance and not the film, then...
Yeah, but we think that, and we believe that just watching some tape and maybe having a Skype interview should probably be the way it should be done anyway. However, this has been some of these guys' process for 30 and 40 years. You tell them that, no, that's wrong, Lewis. Yeah, the way you've been doing it for 40 years as a professional is wrong.
I'm not saying that it's wrong. I'm saying it gives a different perspective that forces you. It gives a different perspective that forces you.
They don't care. They don't care, though, Lewis. I understand that that's our concept, and my thought was exactly that. Finally, you're going to have to actually just watch tape to analyze a player. Imagine the concept. I love it. But I think some of these more seasoned groups of GMs, coaches, people that are on the hot seat, people that don't necessarily have to have those third, fourth rounders right now are going to be tempted to kick them to some teams that are looking to get some talent right now and kick them to 2021. I wonder if it's going to be more tempting to do so. I'm not saying it's going to be, oh my God, everybody's doing it. Like you got half the league drafting and the other half the league with double picks next year. I think you might see a little bit more of it considering the situation. That's just my only thought. I agree with you, Lewis, that I think the way they have had to do it this time by really watching film, doing some Skype interviews, and that's kind of not getting hung up on all the other crap. I agree that I think it's going to be better. I think teams are going to make better picks. But, in the middle of the draft, that hasn't been proven out yet to these people that have been doing it the same way for 30, 40 years. That's the thing. So I'm just curious if we'll see some of that.
Just to go along with that, Ron, I think you're right on point. When you listen to Flores, he's just like it's right now at this point in the process. It's about getting to know the player because we've already looked at the tape. So I think for the healthy players, but I think you're right on because there are a lot of players in every draft that have medicals of whatever it is, whether they've had just a routine knee cleanup to an ACL to a hip like Tua, you name it, and nobody for months has been able to get any updated medicals. And that's the hardest thing right now, I think, for players that
with their own doctors too, their own medical staff.
Right, and these teams want their staffs looking at these players. And so I think you're right on the point where let's just kick these picks because I don't want to be drafting these guys or I don't have clear medicals on them, but I don't want to also be drafting down because these guys are higher graded if they are healthy. Let's just wait. I think if you're one of these teams like that's established, like a Mike Tomlin or Bill Belichick, Sean Payton, where the chances of them getting fired or having one bad season are pretty low. They're all about kicking, and every year you're trying to take advantage of the desperate teams right now. There's teams right now that have coaches and GMs desperate to win, and those are the teams right now that will give you a higher round next year for a pick right now. Like basically what Dante's saying. I think there'll be a lot of teams that will offer Dolphins like 3rd round picks for our force, etc.
I suppose so. All right. Well, where are we now?
So we're at pick 100. The pick 101. The Seahawks are on the clock. On the board, we have another running back in Eno Benjamin, an offensive tackle guard, Ben Barch from St. John's.
Ben Barch is actually somebody that Kuiper hyped up a lot. I don't know why. I can't remember what he said.
I mean, if I had to guess, it's just given that, he's really an impressive player for a D3 kid. I mean, he doesn't look like a D3 kid. He doesn't play like a D3 kid. So I think he'll be a really interesting player to watch in the draft, just as how high he goes.
Is he interior or no?
He could play the interior, but, he played tackle at college. So
did Billy Turner. Next question.
Yeah,
but Billy Turner was expected to play tackle. This guy
hasn't Billy Turner. Am I not? Correct me if I'm wrong. Didn't Billy Turner leave our team and actually have a decent career?
He absolutely did. did.
Okay. Wasn't he starting for some? Did you say the Packers? Like even like last year, the year before, wasn't
he? Not only starting, he was playing well.
He was good.
Yeah.
Wasn't there one other player, like another? Like John Jerry, didn't that also happen with him? I mean, we've had some crappy offensive line.
Jamil Douglas, I think, showed up out of nowhere. I don't know.
Yeah, I've wanted to blame it on Greer because he's been the head of college scouting for so many years, and you can barely name an offensive lineman we drafted outside of the first round. But I mean, yeah, we have drafted a lot of crappy linemen. There's no doubt about it.
That's why I was all about this Cesar Reeves, because I mean we've been through the Dallas Thomas years.
Yeah, exactly.
Slow roasted for 5 years.
That guy was lookout block where you don't touch him.
We also had a few players that left us and actually went on and had success too.
Yeah, that's attributed to coaching. Absolutely.
Yeah. So left on the board is safety, Kayvon Wallace, linebacker Logan Wilson, wide receiver Van Jefferson, tight end Hunter Bryant, safety Alohi Gilman, tight end Devin Asiasi, and edge rusher Khalid Kareem.
I mean, a tight end is something the Dolphins need, but this is a really crappy draft to be looking for one.
I would not draft a tight end here. Personally, I just think it's too high. I think we can get.
This is where I start giving Flores young D-backs right here. So
yeah,
I'd go.
Let's see. Best corner on the board. Michael Ujamedia from Iowa. This would be a huge reach, I think, for a corner. But
one of your Iowa boys there, man.
Yeah, I think safety could be another option if we want to double down there. There's two good safeties on the board, Alohi Gilman and Kayvon Wallace. We'd have to trade up for them, though. We're not there yet. We'd have to trade up about 20 picks, but
I'm all for it. Going
trade up. I mean, honestly, if actually, you know what? Again, I hate to be the guy who's the boring guy, but if there's a chance that Barch can be a really good player and he can play on the interior, I'd go for him. For real.
I'm fine with that.
Because right now,
do we want to move up for him?
Do you think he'll be there? No,
we're too far gone. We have to move up a good amount of picks. I'm gonna offer you guys 2 5s.
Yeah,
and throw in a couple 7s. Why not? Again,
just so we don't have to use them.
I think the 2 5s.
I don't want to use those 7s.
I agree.
There's no
we don't have to use them,
man.
The 2 5s.
We'll use them to trade later. We'll use them to trade back into the 5th. To get back one of our.
We'll
5s.
trade all of our 7s for like a 5th next year.
Yeah, there you go.
All right, let's see if we can move up here. All right, so we just moved up. We traded a 4th and 2 5ths. So we're at pick 101. We can take the safety here, or we can take Barch. They're both on the board.
I feel like Lewis wanted Barch. Let's give him what he wants.
All right.
So we traded a 4th and 2 5ths?
Yeah,
we didn't discuss exactly what we were going to give up here.
We had to move up 40 spots, guys.
Yeah, we jumped way up.
Okay, fine.
We kicked Seattle down 40 spots.
Fine. 40 spots, fine. Yeah.
Okay.
That's more than
I do get it.
It's more than a full round of
draft. In your world, you can't just try again.
Yeah. And given comp picks too, it's probably closer to 2. I mean, just where the actual draft would be. I mean,
that's fair. No, it's fair. I got you.
Yeah. So all right, we'll let it run we don't pick again until the 5th round. We can let it run for quite a while unless you guys want to move up again.
At this point, there's nothing to move up for. Really.
Can you trade picks for picks in this, or does it have to be?
It has to be.
We can't trade future picks, right?
Yeah.
No future picks. No. I mean, if we could do that, we would have been doing that a long time ago, I think.
Yeah, definitely.
But the Barch pick is me hedging my bets, basically, because I don't trust the Dolphins to develop no offensive linemen.
I'm fine with that, Lewis, because we need depth too. So bringing in a player that has upside potential. Yeah.
Yeah, a draft like this has completely transformed our offensive line between, adding Flowers and Karras as well. I mean, completely transformed that offensive line within a matter of one draft.
It better have.
By 2021, you should see a pretty good offensive line, or we didn't do our job.
Well, just having an average line will look amazing to us after last.
It will. It'll be like, oh my God, these guys are
they
amazing.
know how to.
Oh my God.
They're
the 3.5 yards a carry.
They're
not 1.5.
They're the 20. Yeah, Balaj went all the way up to 3.2 inches a carry. It was an amazing improvement. Crazy.
So we are back on the board at pick 173. So we had to wait 73 picks to pick again.
That's our last pick in the 5th round under normal circumstances, right?
How many players have we picked already?
Okay.
We have picked 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, a full draft already.
That's our full draft.
Yeah. So on the board, Isaiah Hodgins, a wide receiver from Oregon State. Isaiah Coulter, a wide receiver from Rhode Island. Julian Blackman, a safety from Utah. Geno Stone, a safety from Iowa. J.R. Reed, a safety from Georgia. Broderick Washington Jr. is a defensive lineman from Texas Tech. Kyle Murphy is another offensive lineman. And then Javelin Goudry is a cornerback from Utah.
Anybody that we could see worth here that could play actual nose, and if not, I think I'd like to give what you've been talking about is give Flores a DB to coach up. But any actual nose tackle worth it here right now?
God, we're probably get free agent at this point, but yeah.
Godchow was a 5th round pick, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was.
Yeah, I mean, it can happen. 5th round, you still get talent in the 5th round. It's when you get in the 6th and 7th, you don't. Those are undrafted free agents, guys.
Well, for what you're looking for, Ron. I mean, if you're looking for like a 330 type D tackle, there doesn't have to be the dominator. He just needs to be immovable.
We could definitely draft one of those guys here. I just also think we could probably draft them in the 7th round.
Okay.
I don't see the need.
Fair.
I don't see the need to get more corners. Like, I understand what Chad is saying, and I'm not saying he's wrong, but the thing is that if we're looking for young players, Dolphins already have an abundance of those. Tay Hayes, Ryan Lewis, Nick Needham, Jamal Perry, Lyndon Stevens, Ken Webster, Nate Brooks, Clayton Fijelham. Not him, but Stephen Parker. And, like, all those guys are all young players for Flores to play with. How many more does he really need?
I have no idea where you rate them all.
I just think maybe the safety from Utah here. I'm sorry. What was it? What was his name?
Julian
I'm sorry.
Black.
Yeah. I'm up for that pick.
I second.
Okay.
I mean, we just need more safety help.
Okay. Yeah,
I'm outvoted. Go for it.
All right, so we'll roll down again at pick 185. Let the board run a little bit.
We just do nothing but pick hurricane players the rest of the way now.
Yeah.
I think we could. There's a couple on the board.
Because they actually got to have their medical staff check those guys out.
Yeah. Yes, that's right. Yeah, it wouldn't shock me. That's what happens, actually.
Of course.
So, both of those receivers are still on the board, Hodgins and Coulter. Trajan Bandy is a cornerback from the University of Miami. He's still on the board.
Okay.
And Antoine Brooks Jr. is a kind of like a safety linebacker hybrid from Maryland. Antonio Gandy Golden's a receiver from Liberty. John Hightower, receiver from Boise State. Javaris Davis, a cornerback from Auburn. And Trevis Gibson, an edge from Tulsa.
No idea.
This is why I keep saying
where we need our scout.
This is why I keep saying use those late picks and trade up. Don't need them. No, I'm not going to need them.
I'm probably taking the best receiver on the board here just to throw him in the mix and compete with like Isaiah Ford on the team.
Okay.
They'll say they're replacing Albert Wilson.
Is there any nose tackle available?
Ron, I want my 330-pounder.
Is there a 330-pound tackle that worth of crap, that maybe we could coach?
I mean, look, we could take a 300-pound defensive tackle here. I just think,
No, 330. 300 is too small.
Yeah, we need bigger than that, actually.
I got 333.
Yeah, see? We don't care about talent. We care about weight.
But can you get him in the 7th round, I guess?
Ron needs a new refrigerator.
I think so. Yeah, I mean, he's ranked 262 on the draft board. We're at 185.
Let's just try and grab him as an undrafted free agent then, we'll go with Chad's idea. We'll draft the best wide receiver out of this bunch.
All right, the best receiver on the board for me is Isaiah Coulter out of Rhode Island. I just think he's a really, really nice slot guy. I think he's got some good separation skills and some speed downfield. So it'd be an interesting competition at least.
Is he better than Mac Hollins or Gary Jennings or Andy Jones, who the Dolphins already have on their little roster here? Terry Wright out of, what was it, Purdue?
I think he will compete with those guys well. I mean, Gary Jennings was a 4th-round pick out of West Virginia. I didn't love him, but I would say they're comparable in talent.
Mac Hollins out of North Carolina, he shined a little bit last year. He got a chance to play.
I like Mac Hollins. I think he's a good player. He just never stays on the field for too long. He gets banged up too much.
Yeah. No, he's been in the year for 4 years.
Those are people competing for the practice squad we're talking about here anyway. So
yeah, definitely. Yeah. That to maybe make the roster in a year or two.
All right, so we're at 227. We could take another running back. Dane Jackson's a corner from Pittsburgh. DJ Jallis is the running back from Miami. Kalijah Lipscomb's another receiver. Miles Bryant, a corner from Washington.
Is there a 330-pound D tackle on the board?
I wasn't going to ask it. I thought it'd run my joke had run the course of the rule of 3, so I wasn't going to say it again.
We could take him a little. 262. We're at 227. It's not a terrible reach.
No, I'm not
reach at this time of the draft.
Okay, wait, hold on. Dante.
I don't know if it's really a reach per se. If we know he's going to come in and play 30% of the snaps, I would argue that's a good value in the 7th round, quite frankly.
I am not a big
roster
Gottschall fan when it's like power up the middle, 3rd and 1s. He's just not that big of a D tackle. We need that space eater.
Dante.
We really do.
Yes.
What can you tell me about DJ Dallas out of the U?
I like him. I think I didn't end up doing a final report for him, but just given from what I've seen.
What's Draft Network got on him?
So he's a 210 right now. We're at 227.
No. I don't mean the rating. I mean, like, they always do have the scouting stuff. So just out of curiosity.
I mean, I can talk about him plenty. I mean, he's a tough kid. He lowers his shoulder. He'll run people over.
So he's more Thunder.
Yeah, he's definitely more Thunder. I just think, he's got really, really limited vision. I don't know how bursty he is. I think he's closer to Jordan Howard than maybe the Dolphins will want in a complementary backfield. But
well, I'm not thinking necessarily for complementary back. I am thinking this is more hedge betting, because if Howard goes down, there's no thunder or lightning. So
I don't know. I think
we have Balazs.
I think I think he sounds like a horrible 330-pound defense.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to hold up against the run.
I don't think he's really going to do the run stuff for that Chad was looking for.
I mean, I don't hate the D tackle pick here. I really don't. I think if he's going to play 30% of the snaps, which isn't a lot, I mean, it's a 7th-round pick.
This is a 7th round?
Yeah, it's a 7th round.
7th round. Okay.
We need somebody. It takes 2 offensive linemen to move. We need somebody.
Give the man what he wants.
John Panisi, interior defensive lineman, Utah.
Yes. Welcome to 30% of the snaps, buddy.
Yeah,
your job is to push the center and the guard.
All you got to do is not get coronavirus and show up, and you're going to play.
and eat all you want in the cafeteria, and just don't be movable.
Yeah. Please
right.
eat everything.
We're back up at pick 246. There's
my
a
sides hurt.
Is there a 340-pound D tackle?
Oh,
We're getting into like unhealthy territory here.
this is what happens when you podcast at like 12 something 1 a.m. This is the kind of podcast you get, like the Dolphins After Dark crap.
Blink to 2020.
I mean, it honestly just depends on what position you guys want to go. I mean, there's a ton of receivers on the board.
No more
Anybody,
receivers.
Dante, you're our scout. Anybody you look at and you're like, I'm kind of surprised to see him here. I'm surprised he fell this far. I mean, any
highly rated,
position, any position.
highly rated punter to compete with Hack.
Yeah.
They give me punters. I don't have punters, so
No punter.
Who the hell scouts punters?
We cannot draft a punter.
You can get like the best rated punter in college football in the 7th round a lot of times.
That's true. That's a good point.
Gross. I'm not drafting a punter. Nobody's drafting punters.
Oh,
Punters
the
to
7th
Miami.
round, man.
I'm sure that there have been teams that have drafted punters at some point. I mean,
Oh, in
Listen,
the 7th round?
listen.
Yeah.
Drafted in the 3rd round last year.
Yeah.
Yes, and I'm
punter
sure
was?
they regretted it. I'm sure they regret it to this day.
Punter in the 3rd round last year. The Buccaneers took a kicker in the second
the second round,
Yeah,
and
but-
so did the
Where
Jets.
is he now?
And so did the Jets.
So did the Jets. You're right.
Yep.
He'll get booted off the Jets real soon. Listen, here's what you do to get the best punter in the draft. All you have to do is call the guy up after the draft is over and say, "Hey, listen, all you have to do is not suck, and you're good." Okay?
I'm saying you're trying to get somebody who can start. 7th round punter can actually compete for a starting spot.
I am not drafting a punter. I draft kickers.
Right.
You know why kickers make
Is there
points?
a 340-pound punter where we could kind of use him in both spots?
Is there a 340-pound guy that can punt? Yeah.
Yeah.
Great.
Now, but honestly, going back, Dante, is there anybody you're looking at and you're like, man, I'm kind of thought maybe he'd go at the top of the 6th round or something, you know?
I think there's 2 names that pop out to me. Like
Are they
the
both
first-
receivers?
One of them's a receiver. It's Joe Reed from Virginia. I actually have a 4th round value on him. I think he's the best kick returner in the draft. I think he's an elite weapon with the ball in his hands. He's kind of a running back receiver hybrid. I don't know how well he fits what Miami wants to do, but for
Okay,
me,
well, honest
he's the
question.
best player available.
Honest question.
I think it's an interesting thought.
Honest question.
Yeah.
Given his skill set,
Yeah.
can he replace Albert Wilson?
No.
Well, see, I don't look at it as
It's not
See, I
right
don't-
now, obviously not
It-
this second, but
based off his skill set, before you answer, Dante, based off the skill set he just described, this guy wouldn't really be replacing Albert Wilson. He would probably be replacing Jakeem Grant because Jakeem Grant's hurt a lot and Drake is now gone, and we need some returners on this team.
right.
No,
but
I
Ken
100% agree with
Miller was
that.
gone.
I thought the Rhode Island guy would be more of a fit for what you're talking about with Albert Wilson.
Yeah. I would agree with that assessment completely. I think Ron makes a really good point. I think he projects much more to Jakeem Grant's role. The other player that I would highlight is Trayvon Hill, the edge from Miami. He has like 2nd, 3rd round tools, man. He's just got a lot of off the field problems. You know, he got
I like that in the 7th round.
he got kicked out of Virginia Tech, and he didn't really stick this year at Miami. But I'm telling you, he can run under the
He
table.
didn't stick. Why?
I don't know. I'm not in the Miami program. I don't know. He just, again, you're in the last 10 picks of the draft. You know,
If we don't take
Take
him, the
Hill.
Bengals or Ravens are.
Take
so
Hill.
We should take him.
I'd take Hill. If you say 2nd or 3rd round tools and just got character issues, this is New England South. So this is where character issues come to die.
all right, we'll go with Hill here. We still have one more pick at 251. So,
Somebody's got to brush Brian Hoyer.
all right, we're back up at 251. I think a conversation we could have here that would be kind of fun is drafting a quarterback.
Yeah. Nathan
Cole
Stanley,
McDonald.
Iowa.
Both are off the board. We're looking at Khalil Tate from Arizona or Bryce Perkins from Virginia.
I mean, don't we have Ruddock, Rosen, Tua, and Fitzpatrick?
Yeah,
we don't need 5
Rosen's
quarterbacks.
already the
I just think
developmental guy.
I just think it would be fun, just given it's like the last pick in the draft. I feel like
Mr. Irrelevant.
Well, then it would be fun to draft a punter too.
I still think you
You
take
can't
the
draft
highest rated punter.
punters. We literally
I
cannot.
would draft a
Physically,
punter.
the simulator does not let us draft punters.
Oh,
Pack is
Jacksonville?
getting too close to the
okay.
end. I don't pay punters anything
I
more
th-
than the league minimum.
I think it would be fun to talk about the quarterbacks down here, but it just with
There's
four
only two
quarterbacks.
guys.
I mean, assuming we drafted a first rounder, which we did in this case, with 4 quarterbacks already sitting, no team, even into camp, brings 5 quarterbacks. I've never even seen that.
Can you filter who's left on the board that weighs the most?
No,
Oh my god!
That's who I want. I want the heaviest guy left on the board.
just for the hell of it.
Just for the hell of it. Right.
Yeah, I can make some educated guesses.
Is DJ Dallas still there or no?
No, I don't think so. I thought he was heavier than that.
We can fix that.
He's really doing it.
we can work on that.
Yeah, I thought he was heavier than that. This kid from Boise State I saw a couple times. All right, so the guy that I got the closest is Glenn Logan at 309 pounds. He's not
We
even
can
that
get him
heavy.
up to 320 in a few months.
Yeah,
Oh, for heavens! Yeah, just feed him Fitzpatrick's cake. He'll
he's
be
the-
fine.
341st overall player on the board.
All right.
All right, for real. Honest, who's the best player for real? Like according to them.
I think it's Joe Reed from Virginia. I think he
He's
can
still
be a
there?
good guy. Yeah, he's still there.
Take him.
All right. We're good. We'll start scout. That might wait.
That is a wrap. That's a wrap, gentlemen. We're all
How
done.
many players was that?
I believe 10. It'll
Or
show
11.
Definitely more
That-
than a full draft right there.
Yeah.
I think that's pretty realistic what we're going to see. I don't think they're going to take 14 players. I think
Well,
they're
considering what we got in this draft, this is
Yeah.
by
So just to
far the
review-
best one we've done.
Yeah, so just to review, we got Tristan Wirfs at 5, Tua Tagovailoa at 18, He's at 26, Antoine Winfield at 39, Lucas Niang at 56, Cam Akers at 70, Ben Barch at 101, Julian Blackman at 173, Isaiah Coulter 185, John Panisi, the 330-pound interior defensive lineman at 227,
Boom.
Trayvon Hill at 246, and Joe Reed at 251.
That's 5 or 6 players that probably start right there. That's
And
impressive.
if Hill can get his act together, maybe more.
Yep. So I think that's probably our best one, just given Tua falling to us at 18.
Yeah,
well,
I think
considering
that
thing
was
about
really
we traded up to 3 to get him, right?
The first one
Yeah.
we did, but
Yes,
that was
we did.
assuming that somebody was. That's assuming the Lions take him, which again we don't think he will, but people are talking about it, so we have to discuss
Right,
it.
but we wanted to make sure we got him. But that draft was just rough because we were trying to round out our offensive
Make up for
line.
the fact we traded up.
Yep.
Man, if Tua falls that far, guys, for real, this draft could possibly be the best one they've had in decades.
So risky. The strategy we did today is the highest
most
risk.
unrealistic,
It's the highest
best
risk,
draft.
highest possible reward, but biggest possible flop strategy that the Miami can do.
Yeah.
They really would be risking it all to pass on QB at 5.
I
and
don't see him.
Take
I don't
best available and then see what happens. I mean, I think in real world they have to trade up if they do that. They draft whoever at 5 and then look to trade up. And it won't be with the Chargers. And they couldn't do it if, let's say, for some reason, another team jumped up in the top 5 ahead of him and took Tua or Herbert, not the Chargers. And then
I
we
think
didn't take
the only way
quarterback
Miami
like
does
that, it would be dangerous. It's really dangerous to do.
The only way I see Miami not doing quarterback at 5s is if they really do want Love, because I think you can make some moves to get Jordan Love, or you might
Jordan
decide
Love.
Where did Love go in this draft?
Oh, that's a good question. Because
I was just curious
Patriots
'cause
took
it's
Herbert.
second round. He might have been second.
Yeah, I don't know.
Jacksonville.
I gotta find him. I have no idea. Herbert went at 23 to the Patriots.
So he had to go after them.
Jordan Love went 34 to the Colts.
Wow.
They'd love that.
Yeah, a replacement for that's like perfect pick for them too to have, a year or two with
You got
Rivers.
Jacoby Brissett. Oh no, Rivers is there.
Yeah,
Oh,
Rivers, and then to start to kind of, that would make me kind of sick to my stomach.
I can't see if
You can't
Miami
have all the
is
quarterbacks.
high on Herbert or Tua, you got to take him at 5.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, gentlemen. Well, we
Sounds
did
good.
ourselves I think this was actually the shortest draft we've done too.
It was.
It felt just
professional.
right, so we got
We're
lucky.
professionals now. We're professionals. All right.
Yeah.
Well, next time, hopefully, we get together. We'll maybe be talking
we'll
about.
We'll be talking
the
about
draft.
the draft.
Oh, that's gonna be
Yeah.
awesome.
Finally,
That might leak into 2 shows because there's no way we're gonna be able to tell you everything all at once.
Oh yeah, we'll be talking about this draft. This is gonna be should be a monster draft for us. We should be able to talk about it for a while, get us into the summer.
Famous last words, Ron.
Yeah, I hope so. Anyway.
All righty, gentlemen. So we will meet back next week, and we will be well, actually no, because Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Do we skip a show? Or do we go earlier in the week and be like, this is the final rumor show?
I think we play it by ear, see what the news is. If there's some big changes out there.
The rumors are just so ridiculous to chase after. I don't know if it's
there
true.
are rumors out there that the
there's rumors every 5
Miami
minutes.
suddenly signs Cam Newton or something out of
Suddenly
nowhere.
Today now Miami's super interested in Love, and they were super interested in Herbert. Then they were wanting to move up for Burrow. And they were super interested in Tua. I mean, come on, man. This is
the same. I think Chris Greer's like the king of smokescreens for real, because you had no idea they wanted Minkah Fitzpatrick until they actually went.
They didn't even meet with him. They didn't even bring him into the facility. That's how you hide.
Who you're interested in?
That's how you hide who you're interested in.
I don't think.
Or you bring in everybody
on who they bring in, because I mean you don't know how those interviews go. They might, if they didn't like them, that's just.
Yeah, but you're talking about a guy they were targeting and they didn't even bring him in. That's the kind of stuff you do when you're trying to trick somebody. That's how you roll.
We had this talk though. I do believe Miami's going after a quarterback.
I don't doubt it.
You guys on Twitter, the discussion when they interviewed Chris Greer at the Combine, and the way he worded that to me was extremely telling. Because I mean, he just said we have a great mentor, something along those lines, in Ryan Fitzpatrick, and he can help.
Was that today?
No, this is from the Combine.
Oh,
he
I thought you were talking about Greer or Flores.
Greer.
Yeah, because Greer talked today.
Oh, no, he talked at the Combine, and he didn't say a word about Rosen. He just said, whoever that is that we bring in, Ryan Fitzpatrick can help mentor him. That's not what you say if your mindset's Josh Rosen's going to be our QB of the future. I didn't sense that at all from him. So, anyway.
Any final words, Dante? You've been our scout, but you haven't had really much of talking to give opinion.
No, I think obviously the pick will be a quarterback at 5. I mean, there's a version of this draft where teams took Tua and Herbert before us at 18, and there's a version of this where someone trades up for Jordan Love, and all of a sudden all of them are gone when 18 rolls around. I know it's unlikely, but it's plausible. I think, we saw in 2018, the last draft that was like this in 2018, where we had 4 quarterbacks at the top. I mean, they were gone by pick. Rosen was the last one at 11.
But that was because of Miami's strategy. I'm telling you, Miami's smokescreen of tricking the world that's so bad had 31 teams convinced that Miami was drafting a quarterback. They needed a quarterback. They were drafting Tannehill's replacement.
They were drafting Josh Rosen. For real.
It was happening. So you had 2 teams jump in front of Miami. And in my opinion, they never had any interest of doing it to begin with. They always were targeting Minkah Fitzpatrick and never even brought him in. It was the smoke screen of all smoke screens. And I think if you guys remember, Lewis, you might remember, I kept saying that's what they were doing. For like 2 months, I said, that is exactly what they're doing, and they did it. So I think Miami is really good at throwing out smoke screens. I'm going to agree with you, Lewis. I think they're a little bit better than other teams just to throw teams off that, you don't really know what they want to do. You don't know. I think you know what they want to do. They want a quarterback, but I don't think any team is 100% certain who they want. And if a team has an interest in a guy, they may jump up and try and get their guy ahead of Miami. Who knows? So there's just not a lot of room to do it. Not a lot of people.
And Flores, I mean, the perception right now is Flores did really well last year. And so there's no pressure at all right now on Flores to have to jump up. So it makes it nearly impossible for a team to think this is what Miami's going to do, because they have a whole bunch of picks. They have a whole bunch of needs, and you have no idea.
Yeah, that's true. You just really don't know what they're going to do. So I'm just interested. I just can't wait. Week left. Well, less than a week. Consider today 6 days, but
I know. Ron can
tonight.
Finally buy a Herbert jersey.
Oh God, yeah, can't wait.
and I feel like we've been hard on Herbert. Didn't somebody Dante, weren't you telling us that somebody came into the Dolphins Brawl DMs just apparently ripping Chad a new one over the Herbert stuff?
Yeah,
you.
They were none too pleased with your assessment of Justin Herbert. They thought Herbert was bad. It was the draft.
Oh, I thought he was good, right?
Yeah.
I don't remember ripping Justin Herbert. I think he's a good prospect, but
yeah.
Okay.
No, they want you to rip Justin Herbert.
Yeah, he was big mad. He's like, your boy Chad doesn't know what he's talking about or whatever. So.
Yeah, Chad.
I'm giving you a heads up.
It's a rough time if you are not Tua. There's a lot of people get upset. That's just the reality.
Well, a lot of people get upset if you are Tua, though. I catch it all the time, man. Catch it all the time. You can't win right now. If you're in the corner of any one guy, you can't win. If you're trying to just play it and say, "Oh, I'll take these few guys," and whoever doesn't like the other guys, they hate you. You can't win right now. I'd just be glad when we actually drop players.
The level of anxiety is really high. There's no way to know who's going to work out. And with the it feels like so much is hinging on this draft. Like, never mind 2021.
Yes,
I mean, it's already tough with any player, but quarterback's by far the hardest. Like, to know how they're going to. I mean, to me, if you get a D tackle or an offensive lineman and you get them really high up, even if they're not Pro Bowlers, they're usually decent players. Typically, but quarterback, you can go from a guy that can't even handle starting in the league, and it's so hard to judge that. If somebody knew how to do it, they'd be really wealthy, because that's how you have success in this league, is to have a top 10 quarterback.
No more Ozzie Newsomes for us. Hopefully, hopefully Chris Greer becomes that guy. Reggie McKenzie and Marvin Allen. That's his name.
Yeah. I think we have a good staff.
Marvin Allen is a good. I'm excited about what his influence is going to look like on the draft. He had heavy influence in the Chiefs when they drafted some really great players. So I'm really hoping that his influence shines through this draft. Hopefully.
I agree.
All right, gentlemen. Until next week, we'll see when we do the show, if we do it before, or if we do it after, or maybe after the first round or something, a late night show. We'll see what happens. So until then, Dante, send me the thing, and I'll put it up on the social media pages. And you know what? Before we go, any final thoughts?
I thought we already did all that.
No, mostly Dante, because Dante doesn't get to talk much. Poor guy. He just sits there and listens to us ramble like morons.
I mean, I'm just excited. I'm ready to get it over with. It's just, I'm sick of hearing about what quarterback they like, and I just want to know. I'm done. I'm over it. Let's get it rolling. I'm ready to cover who's on the team, not who might be on.
Agree.
That's about as good of a final word as we're going to get, I think. That's about the feelings of everybody right there. All right. Until next time, everybody, thank you for joining us for this episode of the Dolphins Brawl. We'll see you all next time.